Think flying is just about overpriced tickets and cramped seats? Think again. Beneath the surface of the airline industry lies a world of manipulation, strategy, and secrets, most of which you're never supposed to find out. From the moment you search for a flight to the second your feet hit the ground, you're being played. But not anymore, because today we're pulling back the curtain. These are the hidden truths airlines don't want you to know. And by the time we're done, you'll never see airports the same way again. Let's start with one of the biggest illusions: airfare pricing. Ever noticed how ticket prices jump after you check the same flight a couple times? That's not your imagination. It's by design. Airlines use something called dynamic pricing. Every time you search, they track your behavior through cookies and browser fingerprints. The more interest you show, the more they make you pay. It's not just sneaky, it's psychological warfare. Want to fight back? Always browse in incognito mode, clear your cookies, or better yet, use a different device. Because if they think you're desperate, the price will climb. But if you disappear from their radar, suddenly the deals reappear. But pricing tricks are just the beginning. Let's talk about something even worse: selling tickets for seats that don't exist. Airlines routinely overbook flights, banking on the assumption that a few passengers won't show up. And when too many do, someone gets bumped. If that someone is you, don't panic. But don't get hustled either. You are legally entitled to compensation. In the US, you can receive up to $1,350 for a domestic flight. But here's what most people don't know. Airlines usually start with a lowball offer, hoping you'll settle fast. Don't. Be polite but firm. Decline the first offer. Often, the number will rise fast. In some cases, you could walk away with cash, vouchers, and even first-class tickets. You just have to know how to play the game. Now think about your checked bag. Ever wonder why it always seems to show up last at baggage claim? There's a reason. When you check your bag early, it usually ends up deep in the cargo hold, under every other suitcase. The later you check it in, the higher it's stacked and the faster it appears on the belt. But be careful. Cut it too close, and your bag may miss the flight entirely. And here's another quiet scam: carry-on restrictions. Airlines have been quietly tightening the rules, charging hidden fees for bags that used to be free. The lighter you pack, the more power you keep. Lose the clutter, and you'll save time, stress, and money. Now here's a truth the airlines hope you never figure out. First class isn't just for the rich. Those luxury seats up front, they're often sold at deep discounts just hours before takeoff. All you have to do is ask at the check-in counter. But here's the twist. Appearance matters. Dress like you belong in first class, and you just might find yourself sipping champagne at 30,000 feet. Frequent flyer miles are another goldmine. If you fly often, and you're not signed up for a loyalty program, you're leaving free upgrades, priority boarding, and even entire flights on the table. The system is designed to reward loyalty, but only if you know it exists. And then there are the delays. We've all heard the excuses: weather, traffic, mechanical issues. But behind the scenes, there's something called padding. Airlines deliberately add extra time to flight schedules so that even late flights appear on time. That's why your flight sometimes lands early. It's just smoke and mirrors. Even worse, when delays really happen, most passengers don't realize they're entitled to compensation or rebooking options. Always check the rules. Don't let a vague excuse rob you of your rights. You'd think that once you're through security, the surprises would end. Not even close. Most airports are full of free perks that go completely unnoticed. We're talking about complimentary water refill stations, device charging zones, and even showers in some international terminals. In cities like Singapore or Istanbul, long layovers can come with free guided tours. Seriously, free sightseeing while you wait. Movie theaters, cultural exhibits, kids' play zones, they're hidden in plain sight. Most people never find them because they never think to check the airport's official website. But if you do, you unlock a completely different experience. Here's another weird one: your taste buds. At 30,000 feet, your sense of taste drops by up to 30%. That's why airline meals taste so bland, unless they're pumped full of salt and sugar. Want to actually enjoy your food? Pre-order a special meal: vegetarian, kosher, halal. These are often made with fresher ingredients and prepared with care. Even better, pack your own snacks. High-protein bars, nuts, dried fruit, way healthier. And you're not at the mercy of reheated mystery meat. But none of this compares to what budget airlines are doing. They lure you in with dirt-cheap ticket prices. But here's the catch: they charge for everything else: seat selection, carry-ons, even printing your boarding pass. Suddenly, your $40 flight costs over $200. The trick? Always calculate the total cost. Use flight comparison tools, set fare alerts, read the fine print, because what looks like a deal is often a trap. And once you're past the booking screen, the fees pile up fast. Now, let's talk about what's coming next. In 2025, the TSA is introducing a wave of changes that could completely transform the way you fly. First, facial recognition tech. In some airports, your face is now your boarding pass. No more ID checks, just a scan and you're through. It sounds convenient, almost futuristic, but it also raises big privacy questions. Participation is technically optional, but once it's the norm, will it really feel like a choice? Then there's the mobile driver's license. Say goodbye to the physical card. Soon, your ID will live on your phone. Lighter pockets, faster lines, one less thing to forget. But make sure your battery doesn't die at the wrong time, or you'll be in for a nightmare. TSA PreCheck is also expanding in 2025, with more enrollment centers and shorter lines. If you haven't signed up yet, now's the time. You'll skip the shoe removal, laptop juggling, and most of the usual chaos. Add to that new CT scanners that let you leave your liquids and electronics in your bag, and the security process might finally start to feel efficient. Don't forget the Real ID deadline. As of May 7th, 2025, you won't be able to board a domestic flight without a Real ID compliant license or a passport. If you haven't upgraded yet, do it now. It's fast becoming the new normal. Behind the scenes, the TSA is also ramping up cybersecurity, protecting not just airports, but the entire transportation infrastructure. It's a digital arms race, and travelers are caught in the middle. Fortunately, a bigger budget means better tech, and hopefully, smoother experiences for everyone. At least, that's the goal. So, what does it all mean? Airlines and airports are changing fast. Some changes are helpful, others feel like power grabs. But one thing is clear. The more you know, the more control you keep. Flying used to be an adventure. Now it's a high-stakes game of rules, loopholes, and secrets. But you're not playing blind anymore. Which of these airline secrets shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you learned something new, share this video with someone who flies often. It might just save them time, stress, or even a few $100. Safe travels. It starts the moment you open your laptop to book a flight. You think you're shopping around, hunting for deals, but in reality, the system is watching you. Airlines and booking sites don't just track what routes you're searching. They track how often you check, what time of day, even what device you're using. And every click is used against you. If you look up a flight multiple times, prices seem to creep up mysteriously. That's no coincidence. It's called dynamic pricing, and it's designed to create panic. They want you to feel like the price is rising because seats are disappearing. In truth, the only thing disappearing is your money. Want to avoid the trap? Clear your cookies, switch devices, or use incognito mode. Even better, browse on one device, book on another. Play them before they play you. And just when you think you've outsmarted the system and locked in your seat, another twist comes in, one that leaves countless travelers stranded without warning. Overbooking. Airlines routinely sell more seats than they actually have. Why? Because they know not everyone shows up, but sometimes they get it wrong. And when too many passengers board, someone gets kicked off. Here's what they don't want you to know. If this happens to you, you're legally entitled to compensation. Not a $25 meal voucher, real money. In the US, up to $1,350 depending on the flight. But they count on you not knowing that. They'll offer peanuts and make it sound like a favor. Don't fall for it. Politely say no to the first offer. Stay calm, and the compensation will likely increase. They want you off that plane as quietly as possible. Use that to your advantage. And while you're negotiating at the gate, your luggage, it's playing its own game behind the scenes. Ever wonder why your bag is always the last one to show up? It has nothing to do with luck. Bags checked in early often get loaded first, which means they end up buried at the bottom of the cargo hold. The result? They come off last. Want to flip the script? Check your bag as late as possible. It'll be loaded last and come off first. But don't cut it too close. You don't want your bag missing the flight entirely. There's more. Airlines have been quietly tightening their baggage policies. That carry-on that used to be free, suddenly there's a charge. The dimensions shrink, the scales get stricter, and your wallet takes the hit. The solution? Pack light. Strip it down to essential. The less you carry, the less control they have over your journey. But it's not all doom and gloom. There are ways to flip the script entirely. Want to fly in luxury without paying thousands? It's more possible than you think. First class. Upgrades are sometimes offered at the last minute for a fraction of the original price. All you have to do is ask. But here's the trick. They don't just offer them to anyone. Appearances matter. Dress sharp. Look confident. Airlines are more likely to upgrade passengers who blend in with the front of the cabin than those in flip-flops. And hoodies. And if you travel even a few times a year, join the airline's loyalty program. It costs nothing, and the benefits can pile up fast. Free upgrades, priority boarding, access to lounges. It's not about how often you fly, it's about how you play the system. Most travelers walk into airports unprepared. You won't. Just when you think you're finally in the air and out of reach of all the games, think again. Your flight says it's arriving early? Probably not. Airlines often pad their schedules, intentionally adding extra time to flight durations to make them look more punctual. That way, even if a plane is 20 minutes late, it still lands on time. It's a manipulation of perception, not performance. And delays? They aren't always because of weather or maintenance. Sometimes it's bad scheduling, lack of staff, or issues they'd rather not admit. But here's the kicker. If your flight is significantly delayed or cancelled, you may be eligible for rebooking or even monetary compensation. But you have to ask. Most passengers don't know their rights. That's exactly what the industry is counting on. Even the airport itself hides secrets in plain sight. While you're paying $8 for a bottle of water and circling an overcrowded gate area, you're probably missing out on dozens of free perks. Many international airports offer complimentary showers, lounges, and even city tours during long layovers. There are movie rooms, nap pods, cultural exhibits, and quiet zones scattered throughout terminals. The problem? Most travelers don't know to look. The trick is simple. Check the airport's website before your trip. Scroll past the flashy headlines and dig into the services section. You'll find perks most people walk right by. It's like discovering secret rooms in a building you've walked through 100 times, and when the flight finally boards, you're probably thinking the worst is over. But even the in-flight meal is part of the illusion. At cruising altitude, your taste buds lose up to 30% of their sensitivity. That's why airplane food tastes bland. To compensate, meals are overloaded with salt and sugar, just enough to trigger flavor without actually being satisfying. Want a better meal? Pre-order a special one. Vegetarian, vegan, kosher. These meals are made in smaller batches and are often fresher than the standard trays. Or bring your own snacks. High-protein bars, fruit, nuts. Fuel your body without. Relying on reheated pasta and mystery sauce. When you know the trick, you don't just eat better, you feel better too. Still, none of this compares to the trapdoor that budget airlines open up under your feet. Sure, that $19 ticket looks like a dream, but the moment you click book, it becomes a nightmare of hidden fees. Seat selection? Extra. Carry-on bag? Extra. Want water? That's extra too. Suddenly, that cheap ticket costs more than a full service flight, and you're stuck with the worst seat on the plane. The only way to protect yourself? Read every line of fine print before booking. Use price comparison sites that show full costs. Set fare alerts and book during low traffic times. Budget airlines operate on volume and confusion, if you can't. Be tricked, they can't take your money, and just when you think you've heard it all, the game changes again. Because in 2025, the TSA is rewriting the rules. And if you're not ready, you're already behind. You've booked your flight, chosen your seat, and maybe even found a decent deal. But there's something airlines are doing that most passengers still don't realize. They're selling seats that don't exist. Every day, on almost every commercial flight, airlines knowingly overbook. Why? Because they're gambling that a few people won't show up. And when everyone does, someone gets the boot. It's called involuntary bumping, and it doesn't matter if you paid full price. If you're the unlucky one, you're off that plane. But here's the part. They hope you don't know. If you're denied boarding due to overbooking, you're entitled to compensation. And not a soggy sandwich or a hotel shuttle. Real money. In the US, the payout can go as high as $1,350 depending on the delay and distance. But instead of telling you that, they'll offer a voucher, smile politely, and act like they're doing you a favor. Don't fall for it. Decline the first offer calmly. The longer you wait, the more desperate they become to fill the seat. And suddenly, that inconvenience turns into a payday. While you're dealing with the fallout, your bag is on its own journey, and it might not be a smooth one. Checked luggage operates on a completely different logic than you'd expect. Most people assume the earlier they check their bags, the better. Not exactly. Bags that go in first often end up buried beneath dozens of others. That's why yours always seems to come out last at baggage claim. Want to beat the system? Check in closer to departure. Your bag will likely be loaded last and come out first. But don't cut it too close or you'll risk missing the bag check entirely. That's not the only trick they're pulling. Airlines are quietly tightening carry-on policies, shrinking the size limits and increasing the enforcement. The result? More surprise fees at the gate. Pack too big and you'll be paying. Pack too heavy and your carry-on might get gate checked, often for a fee. The solution is simple. Pack less. Not only do you dodge the fees, but you skip the stress of dragging an overstuffed bag across the terminal. Travel light and you travel. Smart. Upgrading your experience doesn't always mean upgrading your ticket price. Sometimes all it takes is asking the right question at the right moment. Last-minute first-class upgrades are more common than you think. If premium seats are still empty by the time check-in closes, airlines often sell them off for a fraction of the price. The catch? You have to ask, and you have to look the part. Airlines are more likely to upgrade passengers who seem like they belong in first class. That means dressing well, being polite, and acting like you're used to traveling. It's a soft skill, but it works. Add in a frequent flyer number and you're suddenly on the radar for free upgrades, priority boarding, and access to exclusive lounges. Even if you only fly a few times a year, the perks can stack up quickly. Loyalty programs cost nothing to join, but ignoring them could cost you hundreds in lost benefits. The airlines know how to reward insiders. You just have to make yourself one of them. But even the most upgraded experience can be ruined by something every traveler dreads: delays. We've all been there. A voice crackles through the loudspeaker announcing your flight is delayed, and the reason always sounds like a technicality: weather, maintenance, air traffic. But here's the truth: not all delays are real. Many are. Built into the system, it's called schedule padding, and it's the airline's way of making themselves look punctual. They add extra time to the flight duration, so that even when they're running behind, they can still claim to be on time. That flight that landed early? It didn't. It just had 20 minutes of cushion added to the schedule. And when flights are genuinely delayed, airlines rarely volunteer your rights. If your flight is cancelled or delayed significantly, you may be entitled to rebooking, meals, accommodations, or even compensation, but only if you ask. Most people don't, and that's by design. The less you know, the less they have to offer. But once you know what to demand, you stop being a helpless traveler and start being an informed one. Even the airport itself is filled with untapped advantages that go completely unnoticed by most passengers. While travelers crowd overpriced food courts and lounge on uncomfortable chairs, they're missing out on a range of free amenities hidden in plain sight. And as travel becomes more digital, more streamlined, more convenient, your identity becomes part of the transaction. Mobile boarding passes, biometric scanning, real-time location tracking, all designed to get you from A to B faster, but also to monitor and manage every step of the way. Your smartphone is now your ticket, your ID, your wallet. Lose your signal, lose your power. Suddenly, you're grounded. No gate access, no flight updates, no help. It's easy to miss what's happening because it all feels so smooth. The lines get shorter, the check-ins get faster, the interfaces get prettier. But behind the glass and touchscreen is a system that's less about improving your journey and more about controlling it, optimizing it, and ultimately owning it. Not just the flight, but you. So what do? You start asking questions. You read the fine print. You double-check everything. You stop blindly clicking accept all on every booking site and app. You learn how to check prices in incognito mode, compare flights across multiple sites, and track your data privacy preferences. You don't just look for the cheapest flight, you look for the smartest way to fly. Because once you know how the system works, it loses its grip. Once you realize how tightly every part of your journey is being tracked and optimized for someone else's profit, you start making better choices. You pack lighter. You ask for the upgrade. You know when to speak up and when to walk away. And just like that, flying stops being something that happens to you and starts being something you control again. This isn't about avoiding travel, it's about reclaiming it. Because the sky still belongs to everyone. But the system? That belongs to those who know how to use it. And just when you think you finally got the hang of it, navigated the pricing traps, packed light, avoided the fake perks, along comes the fine print, the part that most people don't read and airlines hope you never do. because buried inside that friendly-looking ticket confirmation are the real rules of engagement. And that's where low-cost carriers pull their biggest trick of all. They don't make their money from cheap fares. They make it from everything else. Need to choose your seat? Pay up. Want to bring a carry-on? That's extra. Didn't print your boarding pass in advance? That'll be $30. Traveling with someone and want to sit together? Good luck, unless you're ready to pay for the privilege. It's not just about squeezing more money out of passengers. It's about exhausting them, nickel and diming them until they either give in or stop noticing altogether. And it works, because by the time you're standing in line at the gate, bag in hand, you're so focused on boarding that you forget. This was supposed to be a budget trip, but it doesn't end there. Even mid-tier and full-service airlines are adopting these practices. They've learned that once travelers adjust to the idea of paying for what used to be standard, it becomes easier to keep pushing. Smaller seats, fewer services, more restrictions. And suddenly, the difference between basic economy and just plain basic is barely a line at all. That's why the real power lies in preparation, not just comparing fares, but comparing value. Don't fall for the lowest number on the screen. Look deeper at baggage policies, cancellation terms, refund options. Use comparison tools that calculate total cost, not just base fare. And if you fly often, set fare alerts during low traffic times like Tuesday or Wednesday nights, when prices are more likely to dip. There's no magic trick to beating the system, but there is strategy, and most people just don't use it. And that's exactly what the airlines are counting on, because every small advantage you don't take, every voucher you don't claim, every policy you don't know, adds to their bottom line, not yours. The travel industry isn't built to serve passengers. It's built to survive, scale, and profit. And unless you go in with your eyes open, you're just another number in their equation. But you're not just a number. You're the one who starts, checking prices from a clean browser. Who knows that loyalty programs aren't just spam factories? They're leverage. Who chooses when to pack a bag and when to skip it altogether? You're the traveler who knows that what looks like a $49 flight might really cost $212 once they're done with you, and who walks away before clicking buy. Because when you fly smart, they don't control your experience. You do. And just when you thought you'd learned all the tricks, the game changes again. Because 2025 isn't just another year on the calendar. It's the year air travel steps deeper into a new era. Quietly and almost without notice, the TSA has been rolling out changes that will redefine what it means to move through an airport. And if you're not ready, you'll feel it the moment you step in the door. The first thing you'll notice, you might not need your boarding pass or even your ID. In a growing number of airports, facial recognition is now your ticket. You walk up, look into a camera, and that's it. You're cleared. No scanning, no fumbling, no human interaction. On the surface, it's fast, it's slick. It feels like something out of a futuristic movie, but behind that smooth process is something far more permanent. Your face, stored in a biometric database, tied to your identity, your travel history, your habits. It's opt-in for now. But in a few years, saying no might not even be an option. And that physical driver's license you've carried around forever, that's fading too. In 2025, the TSA is going all in on digital IDs. Your phone will hold your license, and that screen will become your lifeline at security. Convenient, until your battery dies, or the app crashes, or the network lags. It's the illusion of control until the system breaks down and there's no backup. And for anyone who hasn't upgraded to a real ID-compliant license, May 7th, 2025 is the deadline. No compliant ID, no domestic flight. You'll be turned away, passport or nothing. And most travelers won't realize it until they're already in line, luggage in hand, watching the clock. But the TSA isn't stopping at documentation. They're reinventing the checkpoint itself. New CT scanners mean you won't have to remove electronics or liquids from your bag. It's faster, cleaner, but it's also far more invasive. These machines capture detailed, layered 3D scans of your belongings. Every charger, every bottle, every folded shirt. You'll breeze through, but you'll be more exposed than ever. What feels easier is actually just more invisible scrutiny. It's not less security, it's just better hidden. And then there's PreCheck, the fast pass of the skies. In 2025, it's expanding with more enrollment centers and new third-party providers. More people will have access, but more people also means more data being handed over, more profiles being built, more behavioral tracking across systems that don't always speak clearly about where that information goes. It's security by exchange, Speed in return for access. And most people will say yes, because the alternative is standing barefoot in a slow-moving line, laptop in one hand, belt in the other, wondering why everything feels harder than it used to. Behind the scenes, the TSA's mission is evolving. It's no longer just about spotting threats, it's about infrastructure, cybersecurity, system efficiency. They're investing heavily in tech upgrades, not just for safety, but to anticipate disruptions, reroute passengers, and keep everything moving. But it also means your travel is part of an algorithm now. You're not just a person, you're a data point in a system that's constantly recalculating. And when the system decides you're a risk, a delay, or just inconvenient, things can go sideways quickly and silently. Airports are becoming machines. Smooth, automated, and quiet. Fewer humans, more interfaces. Fewer questions, more scans. Travel is getting faster, but not freer. It's frictionless, but not effortless. And if you don't understand the system you're moving through, it'll move right over you. So here's what matters. Stay informed. Pay attention to the changes, not just the flashy tech upgrades or sleek new terminals, but the policies underneath them. Know your rights before something goes wrong. Don't just click accept without understanding what it means. The future of travel isn't about being afraid. It's about being aware. Because when you know the rules, you can decide when to follow them and when to bend them. The next time you walk through an airport, remember this: what you see isn't always what's really happening. And now that you know what's going on behind the seat, you're not just another passenger. You're someone they can't manipulate so easily. So which of these secrets shocked you the most? Drop it in the comments. And if this opened your eyes, send it to someone who flies often. It might just save them from their next travel disaster. Because the system isn't designed to protect you. It's designed to profit off you. But now, you're ready for takeoff. Everything you've learned so far, it's just the surface. Because while the airline industry keeps passengers distracted with luggage fees, seat upgrades, and overpriced snacks, the real transformation is happening at a much deeper level. And it's not just about how you book your ticket or board your flight. It's about how the entire experience, from curb to cabin, is being re-engineered. Quietly, systematically, and starting in 2025, it's all accelerating. At the center of this shift is the TSA. For years, the agency was synonymous with long lines, shoe removal, and grumbling travelers. But now, it's evolving into something entirely different. More high-tech, more streamlined, and more invisible. They're not just tweaking rules, they're redesigning the system. And if you don't know what's changing, you'll feel it the hard way. The rollout begins with tech that seems like a luxury until it isn't optional. Facial recognition is one example. Once limited to international airports or VIP lanes, it's now being quietly introduced across the country. No more boarding passes, no more ID scans, just your face. It feels effortless, and that's the point. It's not just about speeding up lines, it's about normalizing surveillance. Participation is optional, but only technically. Refuse to use it, and suddenly your wait gets longer, your process slower. And just like that, convenience becomes compliance. Next comes your ID. If you're still carrying a physical license, it's about to become a relic. Digital identification, stored in your phone, is the next phase. Streamlined, portable, but also fragile. What happens when your phone dies at the gate? When the app crashes mid-boarding? There's no slot for a backup anymore. And starting. May 7, 2025, if your ID isn't Real ID compliant, you're grounded. No wiggle room, no exceptions. The countdown is already ticking, and most travelers don't even know it's coming. But it's not just about who you are, it's about what you carry. New CT scanners are being rolled out nationwide, making the old security routine obsolete. No more pulling out laptops, no more separating liquids. Bags stay sealed as they pass through ultra-detailed 3D scanners that see more than you think. The process feels smoother, but it's also more thorough. Every object in your bag is mapped, layered, and analyzed. And you don't see any of it happening. That's the genius and the danger. Efficiency can feel a lot like control when it becomes too seamless to question. And then there's pre-check. Once a niche benefit for frequent flyers, it's now being offered more widely than ever. More enrollment centers, more providers, easier access, but don't mistake ease for generosity. Pre-check is fast because it's thorough. You trade time at the airport for data on the back end. More screening up front so the system can trust you later. It's a transaction, your information in exchange for speed. And if you're not comfortable with that trade, your only alternative is to opt out and fall behind. Behind all of this, the TSA is tightening its digital grip, not just on passengers, but on entire systems. They're investing in cybersecurity to guard against infrastructure attacks, tightening networks that connect airlines, airports, and government agencies. It's smart, it's proactive, but it's also quiet. These updates don't come with press conferences or headlines. They happen in the background without your input, because when control becomes invisible, it becomes permanent. The goal, officially, is a smoother, safer, faster travel experience. And in many ways, that's true. Lines are shorter, delays are reduced, bottlenecks are eliminated. But convenience has a cost, and that cost is visibility. The less you see of the system, the more trust it demands, and the less power you have to question how it works. This is the new architecture of air travel. A world where your identity, your behavior, even your body language can be scanned, measured, and processed in seconds. Where your ability to move freely depends on how perfectly you fit the mold. And if you don't, you'll feel it. Not with alarms or confrontations, but with slowdowns, dead ends, and subtle denials. It won't feel like punishment. It'll just feel like something went wrong, like you missed something, like it's your fault. That's the quiet genius of the new system. It doesn't need to fight you. It just needs you to stop asking questions. So don't stop. Don't assume the smoothest path is always the best one. Don't accept every policy just because it's efficient. Don't give away your privacy in exchange for the illusion of speed. Ask more, learn more, know your rights. Because once you give up control at the airport, it's a short jump to giving it up everywhere else. The future of air travel is already here.